Sige, babalik po tayo sa 1114 sa alleged pag-ibig anomalies through Delphine Lee and Counsel. Balik tayo ngayon sa 1114 on alleged BSP anomalies. We will hear the side of Atty. Ponferrada for and on behalf of Alpha Land. Sige. Go ahead, Panyero.
Maraming salamat po, kagalang-galang na Senador, sa pagkakataong binigay niyo sa Alpha Land para bigyang linaw yung samot-saring issue na lumabas sa mga pahayagan tungkol sa joint venture ng Boy Scouts at ng Alpha Land. Ang unang-una pong binibintang sa Alpha Land ay the Alpha Land Boy Scouts transaction over the Mulugay property is anomalous and irregular. The deal is disadvantageous to the Boy Scouts. Ang katotohanan po ay there is nothing anomalous or irregular about this deal between Alpha Land and the Boy Scouts. No matter what anybody says, this is the simple and true fact, which both Alpha Land and the Boy Scouts clearly affirmed publicly during the Senate hearings. This Alpha Land Boy Scouts deal to develop the 1-hectare property of the Boy Scouts at the corner of Malugay Street and Ayala Avenue extension into the Alpha Land Makati Place project is simply one of the best, if not the best deals that the Boy Scouts has ever made. From an initial value of 600 million pesos in 2008, the investment of the Boy Scouts has appreciated in value to more than 3 billion in 2015, or more than 5 times its original investment in just 7 years. This translates to an annual rate of return of 26%. Ang pangalawa pong aligasyon ay the Boy Scout share is not worth 3 billion. Ang katotohanan po, Mr. Ongpin and Mr. Oreta explained during the February 18th hearing that the 3 billion value of the 15% share of the Boy Scouts investment in the Alpha Land Makati Place project consists of 3 components: the 5-story basement parking, the 6-story podium, and the 3 residential towers. For the basement parking, the Boy Scouts will have 15% of the 1,000 parking slots or 150 parking slots, which are selling for more than 1 million pesos each, or a total value of 150 million pesos. For the podium, the 15% share of the Boy Scouts is the entire 3rd floor, measuring 6,161 square meters. This floor has been independently appraised at 200,000 pesos per square meter and thus has a total value of 1.23 billion pesos. For the 3 residential towers, the Boy Scouts will have 9,208 square meters out of the total net sellable area. The residential units are currently selling for 200,000 pesos per square meter, or a total value of 1.84 billion pesos for the Boy Scouts. If you sum these all up, that is more than 3 billion pesos. Ang sunod pong paratang ay the Boy Scouts should have gotten at least a 20% share and not just 15% share, since for land development deals, the standard sharing is 80-20. Ang katotohanan po, there is no such thing as a standard 80-20 sharing in property deals. One can check with all the developers out there, SM, Mega World, and Ayala Land, just to name a few. The sharing ranges anywhere from 50-50 to 95-5. It all depends on the values that each joint venture partner is contributing to the project. In this case, the Boy Scouts contributed its 60% share in the Mulugay property valued at 600 million pesos, while Alpha Land contributed the remaining 40% of the property, or 400 million pesos, plus the entire construction costs, then estimated at 4 billion pesos. Thus, out of a total 5 billion pesos project cost, the 600 million pesos contribution of the Boy Scouts should only have entitled them to a 12% share. It was because of the skillful and astute negotiating of Vice Mayor Mercado that Alpha Land agreed to an 85-15 sharing scheme. In fact, today, the total project cost has increased from 5 billion pesos to 8 billion pesos. So the 600 million peso investment of the Boy Scouts should only be equivalent to a 7.5% share. Regardless of this fact, the share of the Boy Scouts has been maintained at 15%. Contrary to what Vice Mayor Mercado has falsely testified before the Senate, the 15% share of the Boy Scouts has never been reduced. Ang sunod pong sinasabi ay allegation, the Boy Scouts should have bidded out the property. Ang katotohanan po, this point has been grossly misunderstood. This property has been with the Boy Scouts since 1976. Alpha Land only entered the picture in 2008. You can ask the Boy Scouts and they will tell you that they, together with Sime Darby, who was their co-owner then, had been trying to bid out the property before Alpha Land entered the picture. In fact, former Boy Scouts National President and Bulacan Governor Roberto Pagdanganan himself testified to this fact during the last March 12 Senate hearing. According to Governor Pagdanganan, there were several attempts to sell or bid out the property, but unfortunately, no bid succeeded. In 2008, Alpha Land bought Sime Darby's 40% share for 400 million pesos in cash as the entire property, the land, the improvements, and the leasehold rights up to 2026 was valued at 1 billion pesos. Also, as testified by Governor Pagdanganan, this valuation is higher than the highest valuation that the Boy Scouts received at that time, which was around 954 million from 3 reputable appraisers, Asian Appraisal, Colliers, and Cuervo. There was no bidding when Alpha Land entered into the joint venture contract simply because there was no requirement to do so. The Boy Scouts was only declared a GOCC in 2012. Thus, in 2008, it could not have been reasonably expected to follow government rules on procurement. But the more important reason why the Boy Scouts could not bid out the property to another developer is that it had a co-owner of the property, that is, Alpha Land. Any bidding would have to have the consent of Alpha Land. By the same token, Alpha Land could not bid out the property. Any bidding would need the consent of the Boy Scouts. Furthermore, since 2008, Alpha Land has been offering to buy the share of the Boy Scouts at the prevailing market price. The last offer was 1 billion pesos made in 2013. But the offer was rejected as the Boy Scouts decided, and wisely so, that they would rather have a share of the upside. They were smart to do this as there was no downside but only an upside, as Alpha Land guaranteed them at least a 600 million peso return. Next allegation, the Boy Scouts have got nothing from the project to date. The truth, the actual fact. This is incorrect. The third floor of the podium, valued at 1.23 billion pesos, has already been conveyed to the Boy Scouts. And even if it was not required to do so, Alpha Land has been renting a portion of the third floor since 2014. The rented area was increased in 2015. So now, Alpha Land is paying the Boy Scouts more than 600,000 pesos monthly in lease rentals. To emphasize, the agreement is for the Boy Scouts to receive units and not money out of the joint venture. They should be getting square meters and not cash. Next allegation, the Boy Scouts should have taken its share of the residential units at the time of the signing of the contract. The actual fact, it is impossible to have decided on specific apartment units at the time of contract signing, as the design of the project had understandably not been complete at that time. Additionally, the Boy Scouts had no ability to market the property. More importantly, it was commercially smart for the Boy Scouts not to have cashed in earlier, as now they have benefited from the increased real estate prices. Next allegation, the Boy Scouts should just have done nothing and waited for the lease to expire in 2026. Had they done nothing, the property would supposedly be worth 4 billion pesos by now. The actual fact. First, assuming that the 4 billion peso valuation for the property is correct, the Boy Scouts would only be entitled to 60% of that, or 2.4 billion pesos. The Boy Scouts' 15% share is now worth 3 billion pesos in value from the Makati Place project. Second, it was wise for the Boy Scouts to have unlocked the value of the property in 2008, instead of just getting a pittance, a maximum of 140 pesos per year for the entire 1 hectare in rentals for the property as provided in the deed of donation and leaseback. Next allegation, Mr. Oreta committed tax evasion and tax fraud. The actual fact, the proper taxes have been correctly paid and there is a tax clearance proving it. There was no tax evasion or tax fraud, contrary to what was claimed during the Senate hearings. In 2010, when Mr. Oreta converted his 5% stake in the Makati Place project to shares of Alpha Land, he was advised that such conversion would result in Noble Care booking a gain which would be subjected to tax. The gain booked was 189 million pesos, for which Noble Care paid capital gains taxes of more than 18 million pesos, and was issued a BIR tax clearance accordingly. Next allegation, Alpha Land did not value the shares issued to Noble Care correctly since they were issued at 10 pesos when they were trading at 62 pesos at that time. The actual fact, the 62 peso trading price for November 11, 2010 was a result of very thin trading volumes. For that period, the daily trading average was below 500 shares, or a daily trading value of less than 30,000 pesos. Moreover, there is nothing wrong with valuing the issue price of the shares at 10 pesos per share. It was an original subscription from previously unissued shares, and Alpha Land has been issuing shares at 10 pesos since 2009 and not a peso more. Some 1.8 billion shares were issued to Ashmore, to Mr. Ongpin, to Mr. Delfin Wenceslao, and to Mr. Oreta, all at 10 pesos per share. Alpha Land has never issued a primary share at a price above 10 pesos to date. More importantly, when the shares were issued in 2010, they were not yet listed. The PSC only had the shares listed in 2013 and they could only have been traded at the exchange then. Next allegation. If the Boy Scouts did wonderfully in this deal, then how come it is being subjected to investigation? The actual fact. It is also mystifying to Alphaland. As a matter of fact, Mr. Ongpin said during the hearing on February 18 that Vice Mayor Mercado should be congratulated for negotiating, signing, and closing this wonderful deal for the Boy Scouts. However, instead of being proud of this deal, Vice Mayor Mercado is maligning and criticizing this deal, which he negotiated from beginning to end and which he signed and consummated on behalf of the Boy Scouts for one specific purpose, his ongoing vendetta against Vice President Jejomar Binay. Next allegation, the Vice President has a 5% share in the deal. The actual fact. As Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to interject. Hindi ko papalagpasin yung point na yun, ano? Dahil yung previous statement mo, sinabi mo, yung kay Vice Mayor Mercado should be congratulated, ano? For negotiating this deal up to the end. Pero di ba may amendment nga eh? Ang kini-question natin dito yung amendment dun sa original na negotiation na ginawa ninyo with Mr. Abisado. So, ano yan eh, even your presentation, attorney, may deception eh. Okay? Tapos hindi mo mini-mention dito. Ang kini-question natin dito, assuming maayos itong deal na to with Boy Scouts, pero bakit bibigyan ng komisyon si Vice President Binay? So, yun pa rin, ano, true noble care. Yun, hindi na address yun. Ginogloss over mo yun. So, don't give us your propaganda here in these proceedings, ano? So, I will interject every time makakita ako.
I may be allowed to respond, Your Honor. On the first...
hindi na. Mag-continue ka na lang ng presentation mo, please.
We're about to actually respond because of you're talking about 5%.
Yes, sir. The second point will be addressed by the next allegation. On the first point, Your Honor, the amendment did nothing to change the 85-15 sharing scheme. The spirit and of the deal between the Boy Scouts and Alphaland still remains the same. It's an 85-15 joint venture to develop the Makati Place project. So there was no change even by this formal amendment. And you're correct, Mr. Senator.
I'll have questions later on the 85-15.
Yes, Your Honor. And to address the second point, Your Honor, the next allegation is that the Vice President has a 5% share in the deal. And the actual fact is, as testified by Mr. Ongpin during the Senate hearing, it is Mr. Oreta who has a 5% carried interest in the Makati Place project. A carried interest can be implemented several ways, and the most tax and cost-efficient way to do it was to allow Mr. Oreta to invest in the project at par value in 2008. To stress, Mr. Oreta had a carried interest. It's not compensation, it is not a stock option, it is not a fringe benefit. Then, in 2010, it was agreed that Mr. Oreta would convert his stake in the Makati Place project into shares of stock in Alphaland Corporation since he is the president of Alphaland. Mr. Mercado maliciously alleges that a 5% carried interest of Noble Care was transferred to Vice President Binay. This is completely false. For the record, Noble Care Management Corporation is Mr. Oreta's company. He co-owns it with two other persons who have been his business partners for a long time. Neither Vice President Binay nor any other person has an interest in the company. Since 2005 up to now, only Mr. Oreta and his two partners have beneficially owned Noble Care, and they own all its assets, including the 8.9 million Alphaland shares it received for the Makati Place project. Then and now, Noble Care has owned the shares. They have never been sold or transferred to anybody, much less Vice President Binay, as Mr. Mercado has wrongfully and baselessly alleged. At this point, we reiterate that for his baseless and irresponsible allegations, Alphaland filed a 100 million peso damage suit against Mr. Mercado, in addition to the criminal libel cases filed against him by Mr. Ongpin and Mr. Oreta. Next allegation. Vice Mayor Mercado says that the kickback that the Vice President got through Mr. Oreta amounted to more than 655 million pesos. The actual fact. First, there was no kickback to Vice President Binay or to any other person. Second, that computation is wrong and is a complete fallacy. It is based on a computation multiplying 8.9 million shares of Alphaland with 62 pesos per share, the trading price on November 11, 2010. Those 8.9 million Alphaland shares were only listed in 2013. In 2010, Noble Care could not have sold them even if it wanted to do so, and even if there were willing buyers on the exchange for those shares. The last allegation, Mr. Oreta was asked to waive the bank secrecy law for Noble Care's bank account. He refused. Why? the actual fact. One cannot blame Mr. Oreta for refusing. Why should he waive his rights under the law when there was not one iota of supporting evidence of any wrongdoing? Had there been credible supporting evidence, it is reasonable to believe that Mr. Oreta would be happy to waive the secrecy of that particular account of noble care. He did nothing wrong and he has nothing to hide, but simply put, it is only proper that no one should be forced to waive any legal right just because of unfounded allegations from a self-confessed plunderer. Maraming salamat po, kagalang-galang na Senador, sa pagkakataong ito.
Okay, Attorney, Mr. Chairman.
Trillanes.
Attorney Ponferrada, it is obvious that Mr. Oreta has decided to hang with this, along with his principal, the Vice President. So, ganito ang mangyayari dyan. They're holding on to that possibility that the Vice President would eventually become President. Pero, kung pagpapalain tayo ng Diyos at hindi mangyari yan, believe me, mauuna pa yan si Mr. Babes Oreta na mag-apply to become state witness. At mag-iiwanan yan sa ere. Ganyan yan. Ganyan yung kalakaran. I've seen that before. Kay President Erap, ginawa na yan. Kay GMA, ginawa yan. And it will happen again to the Vice President. Pero, ahadlangan ko yan hanggang sa kaya ko. So, he was given a way out, a decent and a noble way out. But he decided to align with the crooks. So, then, so be it. Gano'n na lang yan, Attorney Ponferrada.
Panyero, I have a question sa 8515. No?
Sure.
Hindi ako negosyante, wala rin naman akong mga land holdings na ganyan na pwedeng i-joint venture na ganyan. Pero yung mathematics ninyo simple, tama. Yung sharing should be based on your contribution to the project. Tama.
Correct, Your Honor.
Correct. And then, from your point of view, the contribution of the BSP, your joint venture partner, is worth 600 million pesos. Tama.
From our point of view and the BSP's point of view, Your Honor.
Yes, so 600 million pesos.
Yes,
Tama.
Your Honor.
Which was 60% of that 1 hectare property.
Correct, Your Honor.
Now, ang sabi ng presentation mo, because the total project cost at the time you were contracting was
The estimated total, Your Honor, was 5 billion pesos, Your Honor.
5 million?
5 billion pesos.
5 billion?
Yes, Your Honor. It's inclusive the 1 billion cost of the land and the 4 billion estimated cost for the construction, Your Honor.
So how do you compute the percentage?
So,
Kung ganyan.
sir, the total, ang suma total po ng project cost would be 5 billion. So since ang contribution po ng Boy Scouts ay 600 million, so 600 million divided by 5 billion, ang lalabas pong quotient ay 12% po. Pero dahil po sa maiging pakikipagnegosasyon po ni Vice Mayor Mercado noon,
Okay.
napapayag po ang Alpha Land na sa 15% po.
Right. Because, okay, kung iti-table na lang natin, no, na sa column sa kaliwa is BSP's contribution, sa kanan, Alpha Land's contribution. Sa BSP, 600 million land, kayo 400 million land plus 4 billion in development cost.
Opo.
Okay,
Opo,
yun.
Your Honor.
Anong proof? Anong proof dun sa, that at the time you were contracting, you estimated your development cost, which will come fully from Alpha Land
Opo.
at 4 billion. Anong
Opo.
proof?
Meron pong may mga estimate pong ginawa at that time, Your Honor.
Okay, do you still have it with you?
Nasa records naman po siguro hanapin.
Kasi alam mo bakit? Sa notes ko, nung si Mr. Ongpin ang nag-opening statement, yung 4 billion na yun, 3 billion yun. Sa notes ko, 3 billion yun. Ngayon, kung 3 billion yun, ay 600 million versus 3 billion, di ba 1/5 yun? 20%?
Hindi. Meron po akong kopya nung opening statement Mr. Ongpin po. Hindi naman po hanapin ko po.
That's why, hindi. Kaya nga, let us look at the documents.
Apo, sige po.
Hindi, kaya nga 4 billion yun. 4 billion. Pero ima-minus mo yung 1 billion na lupa eh.
Ay, hindi po. Kung pamarapatin niyo po, kakala lang, Senator, babasahin ko po yung opening statement ni Mr. Ongpin po.
Hindi, huwag na, mauulit lang.
Yung portion lang po niya.
Sige, please.
As the project was originally envisioned, and I quote Mr. Ongpin during the last February 18th hearing. As the project was originally envisioned, the total construction cost would be 4 billion pesos. If the cost of the land, 1 billion pesos would be added, the total project cost would be 5 billion pesos.
this in his opening statement.
Opo.
So we will check the TSN. Vice Mayor Mercado?
Alam po niyo, sir, sasagot lang ako doon dahil pinagmamalaki kasi nila. 600 million lang ang Boy Scout. Sila ng lahat ang gumastos sa construction ng building. Inutang nga po nila, Mr. Senator. So, hindi po, may partisipasyon po ang Boy Scout doon sa pagkakautang kasi 60% of ang ownership po doon sa lote na inutang po nila. Therefore, dapat nga ho, maghahabol ng mas mataas na percentage ang Boy Scout dahil inutang po yun sa bangko eh. So yun ho yung sinasabi ko na nag-isa sa sariling
Collateral ang lupa.
Collateral po ang lupa. Kung hindi po ikinolateral ang lupa, tama po lahat ang magiging claim ni Atty. Ponferrada. Pangalawa, Mr. President, noon hong ibenta noong 2011, maliwanag po ang agreement dyan eh. After the reclassification, idodouble yung 600 million ng BSP na hindi po nila ginawa. O dili po kaya, bago sila nagpirmahan ng sale noong 2011, pinareappraise po yung value ng lupa bago po nagkaroon ng bentahan, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, tama po yun, Atty. Ponferrada. In a situation like this, na inutang din ninyo pala yung lupa na contribution ng BSP, don't you change the formula?
Hindi po, Mr. Senator, kung maaari po kaming sagutin yun. Yung sa unang puntos po, yung utang po ay utang ng Alpha Land. Ang nagbabayad po noon Alpha Land at hindi po Boy Scouts. Ni isang kusing wala pong kukunin.
Tama po, pero anong collateral?
Marami po. It's a whole security package including the land, including
including the land.
The project, including the land.
Including the 1 hectare land.
Kasi isa lang po yung lupa na jointly co-owned by Alpha Land and the Boy Scouts sa collateral package po. Malaki po yung collateral package. So mali pong sabihin na may bearing po yun sa sharing. Ang mahalaga po, ang Boy Scouts, after contributing the 60% of the land, wala na pong ni isang peso na ina-expect from them. Everything else will be provided for and has been provided for by Alpha Land. And as mentioned earlier, the project cost has actually run higher than 4 billion pesos. The construction cost has actually run higher than 4 billion pesos, all of which were shouldered by Alpha Land. Not 1 peso was asked from the Boy Scouts, Your Honor. And on the second point, Your Honor, on the amendment in 2011, there was no agreement to double the contribution of the Boy Scouts. Any appreciation in the value of the property in 2011, the project having been started in 2008, should accrue to both partners, and they have accrued to both partners, Your Honor.
Vice Mayor, wala naman tayong mapakitang addendum or kasulatan na agreement na i-double. Wala tayo.
Wala po tayo.
Verbal lang, verbal.
Dahil nag-usap lang naman po ng verbal dyan eh.
Sino po?
Ang matibay po dyan, kami po ni Atty. Ureta,
okay.
Dahil ang matibay ko pong pinagbabasihan dyan, yung sa reclassification, tinestify na rin po naman dito no, kung ang isang ordinaryong lupa, ang presyo ngayon ay 1,000 per square meter, na ang kanyang use is industrial. Once na i-reclassify po ninyo yan na maging commercial, may nag-testify naman na po rito na talagang yan ay magdodouble. Yun ho ang aking sinasabi.
Okay na po yun, pero yung agreement ba? Yan lang. Wala naman, hindi sunod.
Wala pong written agreement.
Pero, sige. Doon lang, Your Honor. Doon lang sa reclassification, Your Honor. Kami rin po ay namamangha kung saan po nanggaling yung issue ng reclassification. Kasi sa liksik po namin sa records, noong 2008 po, commercial na po ang touring sa property na ito po. So yung pagbalor sa kanya ng 1 billion pesos noong 2008, it already took into consideration the fact that it was already for commercial purposes, Your Honor.
Iba to. This is the formula of may ordinance sila on how many square meters you can construct per square meter of land. Yun ang binago yata nila.
That happened in 2008, Your Honor. It happened in 2012. And that benefit accrued to both parties, and that benefit was not because...
Yes. That's the point. That's the point. It's not really the commercial classification, but yung floor area ratio. Yun ang point ni Vice Mayor Mercado. Anyway, nasa ordinance naman yan na makikita natin. Balik ako dun sa formula. Kung yung 600 million nga ng Boy Scouts ay contribution nila sa project, because of that, may percentage na sila. Tama? Based on the value of your contribution.
Tama po, Mr. Senator.
Okay. Ang ginawa ninyong collateral. So, ginawa pa ninyong at risk yung kanilang contribution. Posibleng mawala sa kanila yun eh. So, walang consideration yun, additional percentage in the formula, in the sharing formula, because of the fact that they also are now risking their contribution?
Maganda po yung sinabi niyo, Mr. Senator, na the asset would be at risk. Precisely to mitigate that risk or to zero out that risk, the Alpha Land gave the Boy Scouts a guarantee. They will get no less than 600 million pesos from this project, Your Honor. That's why in this project, it's equal, it's zero, it's equal, tabla panalo kung sabihin nga sa vernacular, Your Honor. Tabla panalo ang Boy Scouts. It's either they get 600 million pesos as a minimum or they get the upside of which they're getting now, Your Honor.
Yun na nga, pero yung guarantee kasi, it will only kick in if you are no longer able to pay that loan. Therefore, you're really in financial trouble. Then, therefore, even yung guarantee mo, hindi nyo na kaya na yung i-honor. So, on paper, ang ganda tignan. Pero in reality nga, they are assuming a risk. Don't they deserve additional consideration or compensation or shares because of that strange deal na binibigay ko na yung lupa pero itaya mo pa rin sa utangin mo?
It's not a strange deal, Your Honor. It happens normally in transactions like this, and it's not a pie in the sky guarantee because Alpha Land then and now has many assets which can answer for this 600 million pesos. And you're correct, Your Honor. We don't foresee us defaulting on the loan, so this would be a dead letter contract because we don't see the loan from being defaulted upon, Your Honor.
Kaya nga, that's why my next point would be the loans. Have we been furnished? I'll ask the Secretariat first if the committee already has possession of the loan contracts covering the joint venture. And if not, can you provide us with all of the loan contracts covering this joint venture project? Please, into the mic, sir.
There's only one loan, Your Honor, and we will furnish the committee.
Okay, furnish. And then what is the status of the loan?
It's current, Your Honor. It's currently being serviced by Alpha Land alone, not a
Yes,
peso from the Boy
klaro
Scouts.
naman yun. Alpha Land alone. And
Yes,
alam ninyo yun, di ba, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Alam ninyo
Yes,
yun.
sir.
Inyo lahat yun, basta kanila, yung 600
Yes, sir.
million, and then you say, because of that, 15% ang share nila.
Yes, Your Honor.
Senator Trillanes?
Attorney, yung sinabi mo, parang ang maganda in paper, parang nanalo sa loto yung Boy Scouts dahil dito sa transaction na to. But the fact remains that the only time na nagbigay kayo ng pera in the amount of around 14 million pesos was after the hearing dito. Before that, ni isang kusing, wala kayong ibinibigay sa Boy Scouts except dun sa kickback ni Vice President Binay. So yun eh. Alam naman natin kung ano yung totoo rito. Siyempre, you need to cover legally. Pero darating tayo dyan. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, I look forward to the day na mag-a-apply ng state witness. Yan si Mr. Babes Ureta. Mr. Chairman, anyway, we'll be rescheduling a meeting for these Boy Scouts and we expect Mr. Bobby Ungpin and Mr. Babes Ureta to be present. So they should be ready, and because Senator Sergio Mena also requested that this hearing be rescheduled once he becomes available, Mr. Chairman.
So I have a pending request to address to Atty. Ponferrada to ask Mr. Ungpin, Atty. Ureta, their available dates. Okay, so
Kung pwede lang mabigyan linaw yung binanggit po ni kagalang-galang Senator Trillanes. Your Honor, hindi naman po parang, dahil totoo naman pong may nakukuha na po yung Boy Scouts. At tama po kayo, yung pera, yung may natanggap nilang pera, kamakailan lang. Pero kasi po, ang obligasyon po ng Alpha Land sa joint venture ay huwag magbigay ng pera sa kanila po. Ay kundi magbigay po ng square meters. Yun po yung usapan, hindi po pera. Hindi po pera ang inaasahan ng Boy Scouts
pakidescribe
sa kontrata.
pakidescribe nga ngayon, ano ang nakukuha ng BSP? Kunyari, sinabi nyo na meron doon podium, in-award na ninyo.
Opo.
So ano yan, meron ng titulo sa pangalan ng BSP?
Under process na po yung titulo. Pero under the civil code po, may title na po. There was a deed of conveyance that serves as the civil title over the third floor. But the registered title, that's still under, that's in process, Your Honor. As in any development projects, it will come in due course. But we don't
So
see
may
anything.
deed of conveyance between Alpha Land and BSP. Alpha Land Makati Place, that's the owner, di ba? What's the owner of the project?
The joint owners of the project, Your Honor, are Alpha Land and Boy Scouts, Your Honor. So
And
there's a conveyance from the joint venture
Joint venture nga,
to
BSP.
to the BSP.
Ah.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you will now secure what?
The condominium certificate of
CCT
title over
for
this
BSP.
third floor, Your Honor.
Okay, but since may loan pa, naka-annotate doon.
Yun ang hindi pa namin nakita, Your Honor, yung CCT. But under the
I mean, what's the
loan po is annotated on the mother title, Your
correct?
Honor.
When you now give the CCT, naka-annotate din yung loan doon, tama?
We don't know yet, Your Honor, because we don't have the CCT yet. It's possible that pwedeng wala. Kasi normally, in developments like this, if it's given to the ultimate user, ini-exempt na po sa yung annotation from the CCT po.
So, released from the mortgage?
That's what we're
So,
working on, Your Honor.
Saan ngayon yung mortgage? Saan na siya?
It's still annotated on the It's still annotated on the mother title of the property and will remain on properties beneficially owned by Alpha Land, Your Honor. Because it's only Alpha Land who borrowed, Your Honor.
Okay, with the consent of the creditor, ano? Kasi i-compute basta for as long as covered pa yung ano niya, yung loan, no?
The best analogy, Your Honor, I could think of is if you bought a condominium unit in the project, once you get your CCT, it should be already free from the loan. The loan would only remain for the properties belonging to the borrower, Your Honor. But the end user condominium unit buyer should get a CCT that is free and clear.
Yeah, it should be, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
And yet, we still cannot say that of the BSP title kasi wala pa.
What we're working for...
Kailan kaya lalabas yun at gusto natin makita?
We don't know, Your Honor. It's also beyond our control. But we're applying with the appropriate register of deeds, Your Honor.
You have applied. Is it past tense or future tense?
Sir, we've been working on this, sir. Normally, kasi, sir, kailangan matapos muna yung buong project. But because of what has been happening, we've been trying to see if we can get separate CCTs now that even if the project is still about to be finished, Your Honor. But normally,
we want to see the title issued to the BSP.
Yes, Your Honor. As soon as it's issued, we'll submit a copy.
And let us say the CCT does not mention or carry the annotation of the loan. Is it in reality really beyond the reach of the creditor? If in case something happens to the loan and there is a foreclosure on the mortgage, in reality ba yung CCT na yon ay beyond the reach na?
That should be the case, Your Honor, because that's the basis of our torrent system, Your Honor. The public should only rely on the face of the torrents title, Your Honor, that there is no other encumbrance, Your Honor.
Okay, so, but puro theory ito pinag-usapan natin, ha? Gusto ko makita yung reality.
Yes, Your Honor.
How soon kaya, Attorney?
We're also trying to...
Months pa?
I cannot really say, Your Honor.
Liliwanagin ko lang, ang inimbisigahan natin dito ay hindi yung project ng Alpha Land. I believe it's a good project. Yung mga bumili dyan at planong bumili dyan, hindi at risk yan.
Thank you.
Wala tayong pinag-uusapan dyan, kasi we're not trying to scare away, I believe maganda nga from what I heard yung may city club.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's a good project. Ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, yung rightful share ng BSP. Okay? At ang inimbisigan natin, yung kickback ni Vice President Binay. So, it has nothing to do with the soundness of any investment dito sa Alpha Land project. At least, nililiwanag natin yan.
Thank you for the clarification, Your Honor, but I hope you don't mind if I say for the record that first, we believe that the 15% share of the Boy Scouts is proper and correct. And to our knowledge and to our records, there's no such kickback to Vice President Binay or to any other public officer or individual.
So can the committee be furnished with the original computation of the project cost?
The estimated project cost.
When you were still dealing and fixing the percentage of the parties.
Yes, the estimate made by our project management team.
Right,
at
way back in 2008.
Yes, Your Honor. We'll look for it, Your Honor, and then submit to the Senate, Your Honor.
Okay. And then of course yung sa tax evasion, sabi mo Noble Care paid 18 million out of valued 189 million. Anong tawag niyo doon?
Capital gains, Your Honor.
Capital gains.
Your Honor.
The capital gains tax, no?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because of
The 189 million was capital gains from a capital
Capital
transaction.
gains and then capital, so 10% halos.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if it were income of Mr. Oreta, that should have been 32%.
If
Tama,
were,
if
Your
it were.
Honor,
Yeah, if
but
it were. Kasi
if it
sinasabi,
were,
kinaklaro
if
ko
it
lang
were,
para
if it
makikita
were.
natin na may issue nga. There's issue na if it were income, tax should have been around 32%. Tama?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
except that
If
we're
it
saying
were capital gains, then 18 million. Kinumpute na ninyo yun. 10% ba?
10%. It is yes, correct, sir.
okay,
It is
okay.
capital gains because it's the way it was.
And that's what
Documented, yes,
that's
sir.
what you did. The capital gains.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. But if you're wrong and if it's income, then may shortage tayo ng 22%. Okay? Yan lang. Para lang maklaro na yan yung issue. That is the issue. And we will leave that up to the BIR to determine. Okay?
Although, sir, there's a tax clearance for it, sir, which
For the capital gains.
Yes, sir.
Oo nga. But if it were income, wala pang tax clearance sa income tax.
It could not be both, Your Honor. It's either
Precisely.
Yes,
Kaya
sir.
nga, you could be correct, you could also be wrong. Di ba? You cannot also be both correct and wrong.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
But we're relying on the tax clearance, which says that.
Yeah, if you're correct,
Yes, sir.
then you're cleared. If you're wrong, then mabigat ang problema.
Oh, dahil you mentioned the compensation niya yun eh.
We did not mention that, Your Honor.
Na yung
Compensation.
5% yun.
We never mentioned, even Mr. Ongpin did not mention, Your Honor.
Now, in his
We
opening statement,
reviewed the
as part of his compensation to attract him. But at any rate, it is not up to us to determine. It's not even for Mr. Ongpin. It will be now for the BIR. Based on the definition of income in the NIRC. Di ba? Ano yan?
Yes, Your Honor, but we reviewed this opening statement again in the transcript. It was never mentioned in the opening statement that it was compensation. It was just mentioned during one of the senators was asking about questions, and that senator introduced the concept of compensation. But if you go,
But it was mentioned nonetheless. Hayaan na natin yung BIR.
yes,
Sumintensya doon. Hayaan na natin. Mr. Chairman, I think we'll just have to reschedule this particular portion of the hearing, which is the BSP, so that we can proceed with the other...
May we know for the record why the BSP personalities are not around this morning? Director General Kimbo, please.
Your Honor, we had sent about 8 invitations to the Boy Scouts. Only one confirmed, Mr. Roberto Pagdanganan, as of yesterday. But this morning, Mr. Pagdanganan to the Blue Ribbon a letter saying that he regret not being able to attend because he is presiding a Medicines Transparency Alliance meeting with the WHO and Health Action International scheduled for the 13th and 14th of this year here in Intramuros, despite the previous confirmation. The others sent letters of excuse, like Mr. Avisado said that he will be in San Jose Antique. Mr. Lagdameo reiterated his health certificate. And then Mr. Pangilinan said that he has a series of travel missions from April 8th to 14th. And the others did not give us confirmations or letters of regret, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we will just take up again the BSP issues in a subsequent hearing. So at this point, if there are no more questions to Atty. Ponferrada and to our Noble Care representatives, maybe we can excuse them. Senator Trillanes. Okay. So thank you, Panyero. Thank you, Mr.
Very much, sir.
Sangalang. Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
to,
Your Honor.
to Noble Care. Thank you. Okay. So we should proceed now to Attorney Rivera of the Council of Mr. Delphine Lee.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So under special circumstances, we will allow you to speak because we thought your client would be here.
Opo.
Excuse me, Director Anaka is raising his hand, yes, sir?
Will he
Of
also be
COA.
excused?
Koko. Yes. Take it. You were called here to testify on the BSP Alphaland, no?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to make some contribution? inputs? May
I would just like to inform the body that we have referred the request of Senator Trillanes to our fraud audit office.
to your
Fraud audit office.
fraud audit office. That's all you can report for today? Wala na pong iba? Sige, so who's with you? Ikaw lang, na Director Anakay, please. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your presence. Let's suspend for a minute.